Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program 2, where last episode we designed this monstrosity, and a monstrosity it is indeed, but we're going to need to make a few alterations to it. For one thing, this is not quite powerful enough to lift. So unfortunately, can we hide this fairing? Ah, yes, we can do something like that. That will be a very useful thing indeed. Now, what is our root part here? Are you the root part? Yes, you're the root part. Okay, beautiful. So we're going to move that up a little bit here. I'd like to stretch this tank. We're not going to have the delta V, or rather the thrust to weight, for this. So that is understood. Why is this now saying 0 meters per second and that we don't have any stages? KSP2? Are you okay? Ah, it's because this was somehow detached. For some reason, this got detached. Gotcha. I don't know why, but presumably it had something to do with moving the root part. Okay, so now it's been attached, and things should theoretically be approximately correct. So now if we check in here, we see that this has a thrust to weight of 0.63, which isn't surprising. We're going to need to lift this, and that is going to need a fair amount of thrust to do it. The question is, can we get away with doing just like a pair of SRBs? That would be ideal, but I really suspect that this is not going to be powerful enough. So let's go into our engines here. Let's get the largest SRBs that we have, and those are going to go here. They're going to be kind of hilariously small. What thrust to weight are they? Interesting. So these two are actually slightly higher thrusts than this engine. And if we do that, it's, of course, slightly broken because we need to change around when we're staging this. 1.13. Okay. That's not exactly ideal. No doubt about that. So I'm going to detach this. Let's try 6. So 6 is 1.57. That's a reasonable thrust to weight there. So we don't need a super monstrous monstrosity here, just a mildly monstrous monstrosity. The question is, will we get safe detachment from these SRBs? The answer to that is a solid, I don't know, maybe. Possibly? I hope. But we'll just get that all strutted in like so. And now we just need to work a bit on our... Can we be looking up here, please? We need to work a bit on our staging. I want to zoom out a little more than this, but apparently... Oh, wow, this is not moving very much at all. Okay. Well, sure. I guess this is good enough. So that's fine. So at this point, we fire our SRBs and our main engine. SRBs detach. Main engine detaches, and we can simultaneously fire our nuclear engine. That seems good. The fairing, I'm probably going to put in a separate thing, because we're probably going to manually do the fairing, rather than through the staging system. That seems okay. And then this up here, all of this is going to be very, very awkward. So we'll get to that. I think for the moment, this will do reasonably fine. And let's just see what the aerodynamics on this are like and how the detachment of these SRBs go. I'm not super convinced that this is going to fly well, but let's see. I'm going to save this as the lathe flyer. And let's see what happens here. This is going to be really interesting. In theory, this should be relatively okay. In theory. But we'll see. Okay, first motion, and we're just going to go straight in the up vector for right now. Just straight on up. The question is, when do we want to attempt any sort of a gravity turn, right? And the answer to that is, theoretically, we want to attempt a gravity turn. That's interesting. We're seeing the wings creating drag here. Despite being in the fairing. Okay, cool. Well, maybe that'll give us some attitude control and prevent us from flipping. Maybe. They shouldn't, but maybe they will. Now, we've only got 15 units of electric charge. That is not much. We should probably have a couple batteries on this thing. So I'm going to revert this back, but I want to see what this will look like if we attempt to do a gravity turn. So I'm going to put us into prograde, and we're going to do an aerodynamic stress test about now. I want to see what this looks like. So we're going to hop into orbital mode. This is way too much. It actually evened out. I mean, obviously we don't want to do it here, right? But that's interesting. That indicates that this is reasonably controllable, but not tremendously controllable. Now we wanted to revert this back anyway, and we're going to do that because we clearly need some batteries. So that seems fine. We'll add in, I think, 2 batteries, one for each of our payloads. And that should give us plenty of electric charge storage. So that should be fine, and I think overall, this is relatively ready to go. I just want to open up the fairing here, and I would detach this guy. We'd look to put in a battery, I think small size? Yes. Like that. And then this over here, I would detach the antenna. We would put in a small size battery here, and then we put the antenna back. Something along the lines of that so that we actually have some electric charge storage. Okay, we'll save that as the... Where's our workspace for this? Lathe flyer. Why is it down here? Okay, whatever. It's fine. We're going to put this out on the pad, and we're not going to do a gravity turn at 10 kilometers. We never were going to. That was an aerodynamic stress test to see how the controllability of this is. And it's not bad. So let's just lift this thing off and get those batteries going. Let's double check our stagings, as we did make some changes. I mean, these stages over here are not necessarily going to be utilized, but this seems otherwise fine. Let's go. First motion, and we're moving to the up vector. Cool. So we just need to get this up into proper orbit, and we don't really care too much about the inclination. We're just taking it over to Lathe. We're going to drop a communication satellite at Lathe. In theory, we should be able to use that as a relay for our jet engine, right? Maybe we should actually revert this one more time, now that I think about it. Because I feel like our jet engine should have an antenna on it. It has a built-in antenna, and the idea was to use that to connect to the relay satellite. But I'm not convinced that that's a good idea at this point, because we don't have a backup system. I want to have a backup system on this. So I want to put in a small antenna on this, a retractable one. And that would be something like this Communitron DTS M1. So that's a much better range. And we could deposit that on like the underside of this guy. It would be retractable. And that gives us a backup just in case. And we would want that to be about here-ish. Or maybe just move it up a bit so that it doesn't clip down here. Something like that. Okay, now I think we're ready to launch this thing. Now that we've actually got ourselves a reasonable chance of success. We've got some redundancies going on here. So that sounds good. Let's launch this and get out of here. Okay, there's first motion to the up vector. And we are out of here. So these SRBs are going to propel us fairly nicely. We've got about 1.6 thrust to weight, which is approximately where I like to be. That's my usual target for lifting off of the pad. So that looks good. And of course, we've got a fair amount of fuel here. We've got a lot of fuel up here. I'm not actually sure how much Delta V we've got in these in this nuclear engine, but it's going to be a fair amount, for sure. So we're going to take this up to about a 20 or 25 kilometer apoapsis, something like that, and then we'll start a gravity turn. Although I'm going to make it be a little bit more cautious than our stress test gravity. No doubt about that. Cool. So we're currently at about 10 kilometers, 12, 14 kilometers, and that's going to take a little bit. I'm watching our SRB fuel here. I'm going to put us into hold attitude, and we're going to move over here. There we go. 24 kilometers, and let's start a small gravity turn here. I just want to get us over to the prograde marker fairly cautiously. And we'll just lock to prograde now. Beautiful. So now that we're locked to prograde, we're just going to burn here until our attitude is, or rather our apoapsis is fairly high. But we're going to be ditching these SRBs, and the question remaining is, does this have good SRB detach? We'll find out. Okay, SRBs are burnt out. We're clean. Beautiful. So that is fantastic. We can see our apoapsis is currently about 95 kilometers. Really, we could be burning directly at the horizon at this point. Ooh, this thing doesn't really like maneuvering at this point. And that's probably because of the awkward drag that we've got going on up here. We should definitely get our fairing deployed. So I'm going to jettison the fairing. At this point, we're definitely high up enough for that. That wasn't awkward at all. We've got a little bit of the fairing stuck on over here, but it should, I think, detach. Yeah, there it goes. Fantastic. So we've got 130 on our apoapsis right now, and we are technically in space, so let's just move this guy right on over. We have a little bit of rotation that this likes to pick up. That is noted. Okay, so we're just going to park it right about here at the 90-degree marker, and I want this to be here. There we go. We'll just hold attitude like this, and we'll burn here until our apoapsis is, I don't know, maybe like 200 kilometers. We're in a pretty good position right now to make it into orbit, but this will be fine. We can see we're currently going down in time to apoapsis, so actually, yeah, burning here is necessary. This thing doesn't like rolling, and I think that's because of our awkward setup up here, and that is certainly noted. Now, we're going to want to get into the light of day so that we can actually see what's going on up here and maybe deploy a few things. That would be a good thing, but for now, this will do. We can see time to apoapsis is still currently dropping, and we need to continue to push up this orbital velocity, which is not at all surprising. We've still got about 3 kilometers per second in this first stage, and that's decent. It's not great, but it's not terrible either. We're just going to be burning horizontally here and getting as much horizontal speed as we can. We need close to another, like, 800 meters per second or so. And that'll definitely take a little bit. So this burn will be going for a little while here. We can see time to apoapsis is going up now. That's a good sign. We're, again, just going to be burning here until our apoapsis reaches about 200. It's 165 now, but it is going to definitely be going up faster and faster as our orbital velocity increases. We're getting closer to orbital velocity, but we're not super close to it yet. 170 apoapsis. 175. Cool. Only about 25 more apoapsis kilometers to go here. This thing really likes to pick up roll, and I'm 95% certain that's because of our weird situation up here. But that's fine. So 188, 189, 190, 195, 200. Engine shutdown, and at the apoapsis here, we're just going to, at that point, commence some sort of a burn, although we should kind of have this be a little bit earlier probably and have the apoapsis be somewhere around there. Periapsis is still not quite circular, but something akin-ish to this would be good enough. Yeah, that's pretty decent. We'll align to that, and that seems okay. We should be seeing the sun coming up soon, so we should be able to work with some of our things that we've got here. One thing that I would definitely like to do is extend out these solar panels. The question is, are they retractable? Looks like they are. So that is good. We will likely want to retract these when we do our deployment. But for now, this will do. Okay. So we're still working on getting angled over here. Our turn rate is not phenomenal, but it will get better. I'm not convinced that this will ever be absolutely phenomenal in terms of turn rate. We do have some tiny little reaction wheels in this. Let's see here. It should be this guy that has a tiny little reaction wheel, and the other one as well. So it's not going to be particularly speedy on the turning at any time, but this is when it's most crucial to make it to the turn. Beyond this, it doesn't matter nearly as much. So this is fine. We're also going to burn 235 meters per second of heavy meters per second. We've still got 150 tons of fuel here alone. So that is a lot to turn, no doubt about it. But this is a one-way trip out to Lay's. It should be fine. We're also going to want to deploy this antenna. So let's get that deployed. It is very hard to see up there right now, no doubt about that, but the sun will be coming up shortly. We're going to be crossing the Terminator very, very soon. We're almost in position for this burn, and we've got about 2.5-ish minutes until the burn happens. We've got plenty of time to make this turn, so I'm not concerned about that at all. But this is definitely slow on the turning, but it's not the slowest. It's not too bad. It should be relatively okay. So, at this point, we've got about 2 minutes until the burn here. We can see the sun is coming up. That's great. Let's bump this up to 10x. Actually, let's bump it up to 50x. 1 minute to go, and about 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Those felt like fast seconds rather than slow seconds. Okay, that's interesting. This is a much simpler design, so that probably has something to do with it. But let's just push ourselves on up into orbit here. Little more than this. This'll do. Cool. So that looks fine. And at this point, we're going to be looking to push away from the sun. We're going prograde. So at the apoapsis here, we're just going to push this right on out. And we're looking to bring ourselves up. Oh, we need to go on the other side. Right. Got that mixed up. We need to burn on the dark side here. So, oh, come on. There you go. We need to burn on the dark side, so about here. And that is, of course, going to be pushing us up to a much larger orbit, somewhere around that of Dress. Cool. This'll do. So that'll be about 1,800 meters per second, as it normally is. I suppose we could see what our lineup is like for a transfer to Joule, but I highly doubt that it'll be any good. So we can hop up over here and set Joule as our target. I highly doubt that we're going to be in position for this. We can see. Yeah, we're not going to be in position for that. So timing isn't great. That's understood. We're just going to park it about here. We'll do our inclination change, circularize, and do a Hohmann transfer in the standard manner. So that seems fine. We are currently heading towards the maneuver node. Are we anywhere near it right now? I can't tell if the maneuver node is under this or if we're turning. We are trying to turn. So this is going to be a little bit to get us turned here. It's going to be 30 minutes until this burn timer. But we are definitely trying to turn this. Okay. Well, this is going to take a while to get this turn done. I wish I could warp it. In KSP1, I would be able to physics warp this. In KSP2, we just gotta deal with it. I'm looking at the clock here and I'm thinking, is it worth cutting this out and coming back for like, well, we would just do this burn. I don't know. Maybe we should do this burn next episode. It's a little early to put a cut in here, but this does seem like a reasonable time. It's going to take a while to get this turn done. So I think I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to put in a cut here. We might have a little bit of a longer episode next episode to make up for it. We'll see how that ends up panning out, if I remember. Hopefully I will. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Atala, Andy Magar, Ali Lee, Dark Horse, Upper Cumberland Gamers, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, Tommy Kentogan, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.